to me.
This is Baby Primetime.
Baby Primetime.
I'm just kidding. It's football primetime. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Billy Dean, Little Sarah, and AJ on the Primetime Radio Network, talking football, talking Super Bowl, talking Tipsy Tom, going overboard. But we have a special guest, and let's go to you, Billy. Who's that?
So, as of last Friday, my wife and I had my wife, I didn't have the baby, and thank God, because if it was coming out of me, we would both been dead. But she, was fantastic in delivery and through C-section. And here's our baby girl, Sarah. She is 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Well, she might be about 7'3". She lost a little bit of weight, but she is absolutely beautiful, and she's the new football primetime fan. She'll have her own Twitter account eventually, and I won't be able to keep her off the air.
So she better not have her own Twitter account.
This is her
social media.
This is her debut. Obviously, I'm not yelling like I normally would, but yes, this is her debut, and she is clearly very interested, being how sleepy she is.
She's already tweeting. It's like at Baby Sarah football primetime. Yeah, it says I'm not going to be a Jet fan.
No, so I already told her this is how she has to root. She has to root for the Rangers. That's just a definite. Whether or not that's the right call, it's how it has to be. But Jets are absolutely not happening. She has to make that dumb decision on her own. Yankees, I'll try to steer her that way, but I wouldn't mind a Mets fan because I like the Mets a little bit.
Hey, the Mets.
Yeah.
There you go, baby Sarah.
Speaking of Sam, I think Sam might have dropped some news last football primetime that did not turn out to be so good, huh?
Yeah, he did.
A little 3-year Trevor Bauer to the Mets that turned out to be 3 years to Trevor Bauer to the Dodgers.
You're lucky that you have a baby on air. Otherwise, I cut you off and play all sorts of jokes.
Yeah. But, so this is our new fan, she had to watch the Super Bowl with me.
Actually, it was an incredible reporter from USA Today, I believe, that actually tweeted that out. Yep. That it was a done deal, and that's what I was basing my information on, thinking, credible reporter. I could possibly mention that on air on Football Primetime, which is every Thursday between 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, and I got burnt. Okay. So, there is fake news out there. Thank you for reminding me, but Billy Dean, I'm going to zoom in on your little baby.
Yep, wow. There she is, and she is actually going to be heading upstairs to get a nice bath with her and my grandmother, her great grandmother, and they're going to go have fun, and then I'll join them in a little bit. But say bye, Sarah. Say see you guys later. Football primetime.
Oh, I see the dog in the background.
Yeah, she's always here. But yeah, so good times in the Dean household, and now it's on to football.
Woo-woo. Wow. I like the multitasking, Billy Dean.
Hey,
I like
I'm a
it.
gamer.
He's a man of many talents.
I am a man of many talents, but yeah, no. So obviously, what's more important to the football viewers than my child is the fabulous game that we watched on Sunday.
Was it fabulous?
So I say fabulous in that it was obviously a trouncing, right? I mean, if you look at it, you think about it, right? And the whole entire season, Patrick Mahomes, even when they went down, they were never out of the fight, right? This is the first time where, you still watched it in the third and fourth quarter, and you're like, they could pull this off. Like they could score 20. What did they need? 24 points because it was 33-9 final. They could get
31-9.
31-9. Sorry, they could get 21 points or 22 points in the blink of an eye. I mean, they're that good. So you had to look at it, and you're thinking about it, and like you could pull it off, and then finally you get to those last 5 minutes, and you're like, this is just a dud. But yeah, I mean, fun Super Bowl, at least for the Bucs fans, and now obviously we have the just the thoughts and the concerns that I can no longer not call Brady the GOAT. I can't do it.
Time out. I got excuses on that. I've been working on that because I couldn't call that either. And then I realized one thing that I forgot in my little spiel about Tom Brady being the GOAT. What holds Montana over Brady is because, Brady, Montana was one of Brady's heroes growing up. I believe Brady did see the catch. I believe it was like 3 or 5 years old, right? Aside from the fact that Montana has an undefeated record of Super Bowls, again, even though it's not Tom Brady's fault, they played in 2 different eras. Joe Montana played in an era, and we talked about the NFC East back then with Reggie White, Lawrence Taylor, Dexter Manley, all these, Too Tall Jones, all these brutal football players. Not saying that they're not any brutal football players, but Tom Brady is a beneficiary of not only a passing league, but the two-hand touch league. You can't touch the quarterback. Back then, you could actually hit the quarterback as hard as you wanted. Yeah. They did not protect Montana at all. So you can make that argument. Now, 10 Super Bowls, 7-3. I will also make the argument of cheating, because it's been well documented of cheating, right? You don't know what there could have been more stuff that's going on, but that's all speculation. But when you start to add these arguments up, you can make an argument that he's not the greatest of all time. That's all I'm saying. I still think Montana has the edge. Now, if Brady wins one more Super Bowl, particularly next year, then these arguments go out the window. And I know a lot of people will criticize me for that. But at the same time, one thing I did not factor in my prediction with the KC and the Buccaneers is that it's very hard to go back-to-back. Very difficult back-to-back. So just wanted to put that out there. But I can't call him the greatest yet. But he's very, very, very close to that. Only for that big reason. It was 2 different eras, and Montana withstood a beating. Remember Jim McMahon? The amount of beatings that guy took in that era? That's what quarterbacks had to face. Right now, it's like two-hand touch. They slide, and it's two-hand touch.
Yeah.
Different era.
Yeah, my only thing though is, I mean, I see your point, but I mean he has more Super Bowls, championships than any other franchise. So he surpassed the 49ers and the Cowboys with 5, obviously, a couple of years ago, and then he just surpassed the Steelers and the Patriots with 6. So I don't see how winning one more is going to make him even more of a GOAT. I mean, to have that many Super Bowls, to have more championships than there are like franchises, that's ridiculous.
Well, you could also make the argument that the Patriots during that time period played in the worst division for over a decade. The worst. When you got the Jets and Buffalo, right? Those were easy teams. I mean, they were basically layups. You know,
yeah, but I mean, they still had to play championship caliber playoff teams.
And
I understand that.
So
I understand that.
You look at some of those teams, right? And we just and actually RIP to Marty Schottenheimer, he just passed away, but his Chargers teams were one of the good teams back then, and they were really good teams. You obviously had the Colts with Peyton. You had Ben Roethlisberger with Steelers, and they their defense and his ability to win.
The greatest show on turf.
Greatest show on turf. Yeah, I was gonna say, facing them in St. Louis Rams, whether or not they cheated with knowing the plays is a little different, but. I mean, just 7 Super Bowls, and it absolutely kills me to say this, like that. He's probably GOAT status. I do think that he went to a ready-made team for himself, and smart on him. That's a good move for him.
I tell you, two quarterbacks that have in high regard that has the edge over Tom Brady: Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw. Again, you're playing in eras where they took a beating night in and night out anytime they stepped onto the field. It was a different game back then. The turf was really concrete back then. That makes a big difference as well. Now, again, I actually like Tom Brady. I like the TB12 diet, to be honest with you. Makes me feel healthy. I like the fact I like the fact that he's beaten up on these know-it-all millennials at age, 43, and that's not a knock on Mahomes. Yeah. But it's kind of nice to see somebody in my generation, when he went to Michigan and I went to Penn State. It's good to see at least somebody in my generation still teach these young kids a lesson, and
that's fair.
But Tom Brady, as a role model, I think he's one of the greatest, because you never hear stories about him doing anything, illegal, except for Deflategate. But who knows if that was true? Who really knows?
Or if that's even him doing that?
Yeah. And the other thing too.
On balls.
Yeah, but he did prove that he could throw a trophy from another boat to another boat. How crazy is that? I mean, that took concentration, because you have that one video of Tipsy Tom, but he was laser focused when he did that, because with a smile, and that was like a perfect toss. That was literally a perfect toss.
Spiral.
That was a good 5 feet, 6 feet too that he launched that thing with. I think that was one arm too. But yeah, that takes some guts to do that. Of course, he throws it to Gronk, right?
Yeah. And the other thing too,
get more touchdowns.
I mean, the other thing too, you hear the legendary story of the Stanley Cup being thrown. Yep. I think it was either Guy Carbonneau or June. No, it was Guy Carbonneau. Was that the one that threw it from the balcony into the pool?
Yep.
Sunk, didn't float.
Right.
Yeah. So, you hear about those stories, but they caught it. No harm, no foul. and then you got the video of it almost reminded me, because I didn't know it was Tom Brady at first when I first saw that video of him being tipsy. I honestly thought it was Johnny Knoxville, just the mannerisms that he was walking. I thought it was like another Jackass video or something.
That's very true.
But and also, what about the streaker? Streaker?
Oh, that was funny.
I'll tell you what. It's like, you're not really supposed to be doing these things, especially during, nowadays, after 9/11.
Was he fully naked?
No. No.
He wore like a red
he was
bikini,
wearing,
right? The same
yeah,
guy,
he's wearing
right?
like a bikini.
One one
So I
piece.
heard that, yeah.
One
Um,
Piece.
but I but I heard that. So I guess you could prop bet that there would be a fan running on the field in like Australia or something like that. So the guy, of course, bet that, and I guess him and his
Oh,
crew are part of some YouTube, you know, influencer or whatever they're called.
Mhm.
So his buddy ran on the field, you know, and he was the one that got caught. But the guy won like thousands of dollars betting on the, you know, having a streaker or whatever. So, I mean, I wonder why I was there,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that was funny. It was funny hearing Ian Eagles, you know, talk on it too when he was
What'd he
announcing
say?
it on the radio. Which is, you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, you know, pull up
What?
your pants and all that stuff. It was funny.
I thought that was Kevin Harlan.
Oh, was it
Yeah,
Kevin
Kevin
Harlan? I thought
Harlan.
it was Ian. That's
Yeah,
what, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and you know, I'll tell you what it did for me. For that split second during COVID, it brought back some happiness and normalcy in a really strange way because
Yeah,
because we've been experiencing no fans in the stands, but
Yeah.
to see a streaker come out, it was hilarious. And notice what that guy did when you watched. He did not go near the players. He maintained his distance. Like it's because if he went to the players, he like, okay, it's already bad enough, but with the whole thing with COVID and all that, and they broke through, the security guard,
The tackle.
the
So,
tackle, and then 30, 20, and then he slid at the one. Oh
yeah.
my goodness, that was really funny. And I'll tell you what, although you're not really supposed to be doing that, for that split second, like I felt like, hey, we're back to sports. It's normal for a
yeah,
change. All the shenanigans, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
one thing you can't really replicate. During this past football season, when you don't have fans in the stands, are the shenanigans. Like when I go
Yeah.
to a football game, I'm a fight magnet. Like the fights always attract to me, whether I started or not. They always it's always fan shenanigans, or you're hazing another opposing fan, and then he stands up and turns around and he gets it. You throw popcorn on him and all that. Like sometimes I find that the stands where the fans are more entertaining than the game itself. But it was
yeah,
just nice to see something stupid like that happen, because they do happen at games every once in a
Mm-hmm.
while. And you know what? He did his thing. Network television did their thing, saying you didn't pay for that ad spot, so we're going to, pan to another coach that's watching what's transpiring on the field and not
Yep.
trying to endorse it, right? So you got that part, but with social media, you've got every single angle of fans recording it. So you actually did get to see it, because back in the day, you weren't able to get to see it other than you hear it in the news and the newspaper, the next day, like what the fan did, but they would turn it away and pan. So anyway, those are my,
Yeah,
thinking on that.
yeah.
it was a funny moment seeing it on Twitter or Facebook or, you know, wherever. And then just hearing the mashup of Kevin Harlan doing it, with the actual video was pretty great.
Yeah.
He's on the fly. Yeah,
But speaking of the other team, you know, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, I thought played pretty well, all things considered. I mean, I know the two interceptions, both not his fault, both were tip balls for the most part. I read a stat that he ran almost 500 yards just scrambling away from Buccaneer
yeah,
defenders, which is insane, especially because he has that turf toe that he's getting either had surgery on or is getting surgery on or something like that. But
Yeah.
and that throw too, where he was pretty much parallel with the ground launching that ball.
Yeah.
yes.
Uh,
And they had that video online too about this guy was joking around pretending to be Patrick Mahomes, and he would just throw it like different odd angles and stuff, and he just the guys hitting it in the hands and him being pissed off.
I mean that's the thing. KC didn't catch those balls. I mean, they
No,
were definitely
dropped a lot.
catchable. I mean, you talk about the Super Bowl, Tom Brady, I mean, KC didn't make the big plays.
No.
You know, now granted, the Buccaneers defense was stifling. They were making Mahomes run all night long. You know, the 500 yards you were alluding to. So, but I'll tell you what, Mahomes, he's the real deal. I mean, the throwing at those odd arm angles and being that accurate to actually having actually a decent percentage chance of actually getting that touchdown. You know, but I'll tell you what, the Bucs defense on the other end, you know, their secondary, they had just enough where the receiver couldn't make the catch because it was very difficult. They made it very distracting back there and made big plays. So
yeah. They were in his face the entire time. You know, we talked about Patrick Mahomes making some plays, but you know, Kelsey got his. What do you have? 10 for 133. But I mean, you know, a lot of it was check down stuff like that. Tyreek Hill. I mean, I know he had 7 for 73 or 7 for 75, whatever it was.
Yeah,
but there was. I didn't think he was anything. And he had a couple bad drops, including a touchdown. You know, they got the running game going, which was actually pretty good with I think it was 9 for 60 something for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But I mean, just Tampa with the running game specifically. You know, I think that what was it? Fournette had 16 for 89. John Jones had another 12 for 61. I mean, they were, you know, 4.5 yards per carry, and you know the touchdowns. You know, Tom was pretty methodical. Just I think 29 overall passes, 21 for 29, 201 yards, 3 touchdowns. But yeah, the big thing was Tampa's defense, I mean, has done something that no other team has done this year, which was stop Patrick Mahomes and not give him options. And they're flushing him from the pocket, and he had to really make some plays.
Yeah, that was the I read too that was the first time that he hasn't scored a touchdown since like his junior or senior year of college, something like that.
Yeah,
which is pretty ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, besides Tampa Bay's defense, you know, Kansas City's defense was terrible. The amount of flags that they had on them, you know,
bad.
Stupid penalties at bad times just killed them.
Mm-hmm. And you know, we were talking about it. Obviously, Gronk he gets the catch on the boat, but he gets 2 touchdowns in the game. You know, the 6 for 67. It was vintage Gronk. You know, something I expected. I don't think he hit the over on yards, or actually he did get the over on yards. But
1 yard.
Oh, he missed it by a yard.
1 yard.
But obviously, if you had bet him on a touchdown, which I did, he got you some money there. You know, playoff Lenny Fournette, 4 for 46, catching the ball too.
Played well.
The worst part, hands down, was Antonio Brown getting a touchdown, and then seeing him score. You know, he's definitely going to do some boneheaded stuff this offseason because he's going to be just, I don't know. It just that's someone I didn't want to have win, but you know, I was happy for Godwin. I don't know, he didn't get very many catches. Evans, same thing. I think 1 for 31, right, for Evans. It was. It was nothing like we thought it would be. We thought it was either going to be a shootout between the two teams, a blowout for KC, and that was it. There wasn't the other way. No one thought that this was happening. If they say it, that you know, they're full of it. I mean, I can't really imagine anyone said that it would be a blowout in Tampa's.
Earlier in the game, that goal line stand, KC had, I thought was going to be like that momentum breaker. Unless you know, there was a safety right afterwards, you know, but and immediately KC had, you know, did a, you know, a little dump and you know, got some breathing room, but that punter, that was another momentum changer. 56 yards called back, and then Shanks 129 yards. Can't do that in the Super Bowl. You can't do that, you know, and the dumb penalties. Now, I mean, Mahomes' soon-to-be wife, you know, a lot of the, you know, wives and girlfriends complaining about the referees and being bad and, you know, and not letting them play. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, AJ could probably go in a little bit more, but you know, from what I saw, that pass interference on Tyrann Mathieu, I thought was bad. That's a really bad call. You know, there was a couple other instances where, you know, it might have been questionable, but they just got outplayed. I mean, there's not much else to say. They lost, you know, they got beat by a better squad, especially defensively. And then when you can't control yourself, you know, with penalties and stuff, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So,
and
maybe one or two, but
good teams overcome that. Yeah, they find a way. I mean, if you don't have much room for error and you're causing all these penalties, that's your own fault, you know?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think the big thing is the consistency between, you know, the two championship games, you know, the conference championship games, Super Bowl and all that stuff, you know, just a little bit better consistency, you know, for the referees, you know, because you had, you know, I think it was the AFC championship game, which was called pretty tight, and the NFC championship game wasn't called tight at all, you know, up until that last little pass interference. You know, and then this game, you know, you had the Chiefs. So here's a stat. The Chiefs were showered with flags during the first half, setting the record for most penalty yards, 95, against any team in the first half of a game this season. Their 8 penalties were the most during the first half in a Super Bowl history. So, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of that was self-inflicted, some of the penalties. But there's other ones like like you said, the Tyrann Mathieu one, I didn't think was, you know, pass interference. I mean, was that Gronk? I think ran pretty much right into him, or whoever ran right into him. And like, how do you call that a pass interference? You know, they're definitely like, and then the other Tyrann Mathieu one too, where, you know, Brady got into his face first, and then Tyrann Mathieu runs into his face and, you know, points or does the peace sign, whatever he did. But like, come on, like that's two guys competing. You're gonna call a flag on that? Like, that's a little touchy there. But I just think more consistency from the NFL, from the refs. You know, that's the big thing. You know, 'cause people want to know what's a penalty, what's not a penalty. You know, I know it's obviously there's human error and human judgment, so it's never going to be perfect. But you know, maybe they look to have, like they've been talking about for the past year or two, you know, doing the sky judge. You know, we have somebody, you know, looking down at the play, seeing, you know, where calls could be, calls, you know, maybe don't need to be. You know, I know for the most part, flags were down for like holding, you know, this whole year, and things like that, which is good because, I mean, I think everybody wants to see more scoring, you know, around the league and things like that. And but so, I mean, the Chiefs definitely shot themselves in the foot, but you know, I do think the league just does have to look at you know, flags and penalties a little bit more, and kind of get more of a better baseline for things.
Yeah, they definitely did need to do better. I mean, like I said, it didn't cost them a Super Bowl, but there was some questionable stuff. But like I said, they lost. That's, you know, they got beat by a better team. You know, they lost the Super Bowl fair and square. I mean, what I was going to say is, hell hath no bent like a man scorned. And I think Patrick Mahomes this year coming up, oof, we're going to see MVP, and I think we see Super Bowl. I'm going to bet both of those two the first chance it comes out for next year. I mean, I don't think that they're gonna run, you know, run over people. I just think it's gonna happen. But yeah,
I would like
mean,
to say
you know,
something. I'd like to say something. You know, history was changed because if the Eagles didn't tank that game and beat the Washington football team, Daniel Jones led New York Football Giants could have
beat Tampa Bay.
Yep.
He is
you never
Eli
know.
Manning-esque.
He is.
Yes.
He's goddamn Redskins. I mean, goddamn Eagles.
Velcro shoes 2.0.
Velcro shoes 2.0. I mean, like, and we, you know, a couple other things that happened, right? Obviously, Winfield and Devin White with the interceptions on Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Devin White was fantastic in this game.
Yeah,
I hate Winfield. I mean, he just seems like another one of those, you know, jerk D-backs that just, always like with the, pretending like he did something good when the ball's overthrown, or the guy drops it like he was the one that made that happen. But Devin White's real deal, man. He is fantastic. He was extremely good. JPP was all over the field. Vita Vea looked really good in the run game. Their defense honestly shut them down from, James, was it James Dean? Dean, the safety, and Jamal Dean, thank you. And a couple other players on that defense, they and also give credit to Todd Bowles, of course. Jets,
great defense.
Their former head coach goes in and puts the game plan of his life against Tom Brady, a guy that's gotten him a couple times, more than a couple times, and he had a great game. And I noticed, I also was looking on because he obviously should have been considered. Him and Leftwich should have been considered for head coaching jobs. They had very good years, and now obviously with this game, maybe he gets another chance. But I really do think that head coaches shouldn't be allowed to be named until after the Super Bowl. So this way you get these guys that, go on hot streaks, right? And get the chance to really, show what they're worth in the big game. The same thing with Bieniemy. I know he had not the best game calling plays, but he's still a top offensive mind. I think it should be after the Super Bowl so these guys can really dedicate themselves to an interview, instead of practicing. Because I really do think that makes a big difference.
No, I agree with you, and I think that's something that I think they were discussing too about changing. Making sure that some of these guys get more opportunities to, like you said, showcase their talents and not have to lose out to another coach just because they can interview with them a little bit more or anything like that. But another player that I was kind of mad got to hoist that trophy was Ndamukong Suh. I'm not a big fan of him.
Yeah.
And
a sack and a half.
Guy.
I mean, he was. Yeah. He had that soul. He had a couple tackles, some tackles for losses, QB hits. He was just all over the field. Shaq Barrett was another guy, another sack. Like I said, they had a really good defense, and Ndamukong Suh I don't really care all that much about. It was more Antonio Brown for me, and Tom Brady, of course. But that's just because I don't want to have to call him the GOAT. But a couple of the stats and records, right? So I know you talk about Brady, 7 Super Bowls, surpasses 49ers, Colts, and then obviously the Patriots and Steelers. He also became the first quarterback to complete 80% of his passes and throw for 3 touchdowns in one half during a Super Bowl. He also was the first player in NFL history with 50 passing touchdowns in a season, including the playoffs for a Super Bowl champion. That's crazy. I actually thought that Peyton had did that when he was with the Broncos, but I forgot that he actually lost that Super Bowl, right? He lost that game to the Seahawks. So
yeah, and then the final year he was terrible with them,
and he won the Super Bowl just basically managing him because that defense was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You got that other stat?
Yeah. Brady also helped the Bucs to a number of records. So first team with 4 30-point games in postseason. And then the first team to beat 3 Super Bowl MVP quarterbacks, in the same postseason. So you had Aaron Rodgers, obviously Patrick Mahomes, and they had Drew Brees.
That's crazy.
And then, that's a really crazy stat. And then, finally you had, Bruce Arians becoming the oldest head coach to win a Super Bowl at 68, surpassing Tom's former head coach, Bill Belichick, who was 66.
Yeah. And good on Bruce Arians. Obviously, the stories on him are great. Him eating paint to get stronger and paint chips. But yeah, I mean, see the guy in Arizona, and he was fun to watch there. He goes to Tampa, and he's with Jameis, and you're like, I don't want this team to do well because I just didn't like Jameis. And then, of course, next year. No, I don't like Jameis. Yeah, it's funny, but it's absolutely a train wreck for like fans watching. If you're not a Tampa fan, it's hysterical. 30-30 is absolutely the funniest thing I've ever heard. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that you don't want him to be the ringleader just because personal stuff too. But then he goes and he gets the best quarterback of all time, and he wins a Super Bowl in his first season. So.
Yeah, there were.
Just
I don't know if you saw too. There were a lot of digs that I guess Arians was throwing at Belichick, saying how he pretty much would just let Brady coach. If he wanted an off day, like Brady would text me like, "Hey, like, do you mind if I don't throw on Wednesday?" And Arians like, "Yeah, I don't care. Go rest. I want you on a Sunday."
yeah,
Same thing with Gronk. He told Gronk not to practice. He'd rather have him rest and
yeah.
relax and stuff like that. So just funny how
Yeah. And
how
Belichick would have never done that ever,
yeah.
ever.
Yep. So it shows you, I guess, the whole kind of, I mean, I don't want to say load management, but how much that can kind of help players, especially in football, when you're playing, gladiator style, going balls to the wall for,
Yeah.
1 day a week, having those extra few days of rest and not pushing your body, especially at Tom Brady's age, even Gronk's age, where, I mean, he's probably like a 50-year-old man with those knees, the amount of times he's gotten hit there. But I mean, it just shows you the kind of different coaches, and their mentality. So it worked for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a pretty cool thing for them. So good job for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Super Bowl LV 55 champions. All right, so obviously we had the big game. That's the focal point. A couple other things in the news that happened, but first I want to do the NFL awards because that did come out. Obviously, another big announcement for the NFL. Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2021. Offensive lineman Alan Faneca, who I love when he was at the Jets. Obviously, Pittsburgh Steelers, very good. Great player. One of the guards never get their due, but this is one of the premier guards that played. He was fantastic. Head coach Tom Flores, also very deserving candidate. Wide receiver Calvin Johnson, Megatron. I mean, you're looking at probably a top 5 talent in terms of wide receiver, and he put up the numbers with it, right? I mean, this guy's Hall of Famer any day, week, night, year. He's just, for his peak, was just incredible with the catches and yards, and he was just a monster. You could not handle him. I mean, I think Darrelle Revis is the only one to have like a somewhat positive grade against this guy. He was just fantastic.
I say, do you think he would have played more do you think he would have retired
if he was on another team? Yeah, he wouldn't have retired. I honestly, and he kind of talked about it this week. There's a little bit I read about him in Detroit trying to get back into favor. He's going to go talk to Mrs. Ford. But yeah, I really think him and it's on him too. He signed the long-term contract to be with them.
Yeah.
So he could have easily played it year by year and went that way if he wanted to. They would have paid him for a year and kept the talent. But yeah, I mean, it was just a bad team. I know he had Stafford as his quarterback kind of towards the end of his career. But yeah, it's just losing really does have the mentality on you. And it sucks for Detroit, right? Detroit Lions have 2 of the all-time players in football history in
2 great talents.
In Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. I mean, you're looking at, if they get a quarterback and he decides to leave, that'd be hysterical. So,
I mean, even Stafford, though, for those few years that they were together, I mean, that was a great dynamic duo right there.
And Stafford's probably the best quarterback they've ever had. Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a shame, though. Calvin had such talent. You even thought maybe as a couple of years ago he was still going to come back and do something. But yeah, obviously well deserving. Quarterback Peyton Manning. I mean, what else is there to say? I'm skipping over one name real fast, but Peyton Manning, what else is there to say? I mean, the guy's just fantastic. He's the best regular season quarterback I've ever seen, just his planning and his preparation and just systematically destroying defenses with his brain. Because, he had talent with the arm when he was first going, but then he got hurt and had neck issues. And then it was all cerebral. It was just him picking you apart any which way with some names like Dallas Clark. Like I remember tight end Dallas Clark. He was a very good tight end. He's not, one of the best of all time, but he continually made him a Pro Bowler and made him better. Brandon Stokely. And I could just go through the names. I mean, obviously he had Marvin Harrison. He had Reggie Wayne, 2 very good players. He had running backs in Edgerrin James, a lot of talent around him. His offensive lines were always very good up until the end when he got, hurt and missed that whole season. Yeah, I mean, just Peyton Manning, you think just the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks of all time, and he's hands down in that class. I skipped over John Lynch. I like John Lynch. I liked him with the Broncos, obviously. Tampa as well, and I'm missing another team. I don't know why I'm missing another team, but he was fun to watch. I didn't think he was Hall of Fame worthy. I always watch him. He was just a big hitter, very good in terms of in the box safety. But I'm not smudging his name. I think he could be very well be in that upper echelon. I just didn't necessarily think that he was exactly there, but still one a hell of a player. Scout Bill Nunn, which is pretty cool. Now they put scouts in and some other things. Wide receiver Drew Pearson, obviously the Dallas Cowboys, and then defensive back Charles Woodson. The only guy that beat Peyton for the Heisman. Michigan, wide receiver, running back. He was D-back, and then you watch him in the NFL, and with the Raiders, he was ridiculous, just always where he needed to be. He was a shutdown corner. Him and Darrelle Revis, I can remember just going back and forth as like who's the best, cornerback. I mean, obviously Darrelle was more on his the back end of Woodson's career, but just fantastic players, guys that this Hall of Fame class is ridiculous. I mean, you're talking about all-time talents here. So, really good on them. Congrats. And, NFL is going to have another, banner, class to come in. So.
Yeah. Moving on to the actual awards. Rookie of the Year and Justin Herbert. I mean, rightfully so. Yeah. He played phenomenal. He was also the Offensive Rookie of the Year as well. Who would have thought that him being picked at 5? I think 5 or 6, right?
I mean,
would be the one that would shine as much.
And it begs the question: if you're redoing the draft, do you still take Burrow at 1? I mean, not including injuries. Say Burrow's healthy. Just seeing what you saw from Herbert. I mean, he was very impressive, and also Justin Jefferson rockets up the draft, but.
I think go ahead. I think Justin Herbert has better weapons in LA than Burrow does.
I don't know about that. I mean, obviously Keenan Allen is probably the better receiver of all those guys.
Eckler?
But Eckler running back. But if you look, obviously in Cleveland, Cincinnati, right? We got AJ Brown, who was, or not AJ Brown, AJ Green, who, tail end, but still a decent wide receiver at that 3. You had, and why am I blanking on all the players on Cincinnati Bengals now?
Yeah, T. Higgins.
T. Higgins, thank you. That's what I was thinking about for wide receiver. Obviously a fantastic rookie. At running back, you got, why am I? I have baby brain right now. Joe Mixon. Thank you. Yeah, I do. I'm just all sorts of fumbling their names right now. But, and then also, Travis Boyd.
Boyd.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd. Sorry. Yeah, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, AJ Green. You got Alex Erickson. You had Auden Tate. John Ross is there with his speed. Giovanni Bernard was another one that I was trying to get out of my dumb brain. But and the line obviously could do a little better. They have Jonah Williams, a left tackle, but he was hurt for a little while. Billy Price. Some guys that do intrigue you a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you got guys in San Diego, like I said, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, all-time talent, maybe not, the best receiver right now. It's definitely interesting. It's definitely a cool conversation to have that maybe these guys are closer to where they should be.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I just think that Herbert has overall weapons. I mean, obviously Burrow, going out, I think it was halfway through the season or 3/4 of the way season, whatever it was, obviously didn't help him there with stats and stuff like that. I mean, Herbert played out of his mind, from the start. We know when he came in relief of, what's his name? Tyrod Taylor with the punctured lung.
Yep. Talk about
way to start the career.
Oh my God! Like
that's gonna be a great trivia question.
Yeah,
in like years.
what quarterback punctured his lung in order for Justin Herbert to become the NFL offensive player of the year or rookie of the year? And just that poor doctor just accidentally going a little too deep.
Yeah.
But yeah, Herbert 43-36 in terms of the yards, 31 touchdowns, the 10 interceptions, almost 70 QBR. Obviously, well deserving. So, you want to keep naming some more of these guys?
Yeah. So, did the offensive rookie of the year, defensive player of the year, Aaron Donald,
3-time defensive MVP.
well deserving, but I do think T.J. Watt kind of got screwed a little bit. He led all categories for defensive linemen. I don't understand how he didn't get it over Aaron Donald. But that's just pure
stats wise. Obviously, he should have won that. But you can't tell me that every single offensive coordinator would not say Aaron Donald as the number one weapon that you have to try to stop, because he could go inside, outside. Just his maneuverability. He's hands down the best defensive player in the league. Maybe stats wise he didn't have that, but just continually worrying about this guy on the field that he's going to wreck your plans every single game.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
three-time
defensive player of the year.
Both would be well deserving. Obviously, I mean, obviously, Donald is. I'm just saying that I think it should have been a little bit tighter of a decision. That's just me.
Agreed.
Offensive player of the year. I mean, I don't think this is kind of any discussion. Derrick Henry was just a beast. His runs, his just power, just launching guys, off of him.
So much fun.
I mean, he's an awesome guy to watch. Very well deserving.
What do you end up with? What was his total? It was 2,000, right? He hit the 2,000-yard mark, 17 touchdowns. I mean, he has to be the offensive player of the year.
Yeah, just disgusting. And then the defensive rookie of the year. I mean, this wasn't a discussion. Chase Young, just a beast. Going to be a terror for the Giants. For years.
I know. Sam's going to have to worry about that for a while.
That entire defense. Is he going to be the next Aaron Donald?
I mean, obviously different player. You're hoping he's more of like a Clowney on his great end of Clowney. I mean, just a lot of fun to watch him play, and he's going to be really good. It's a good time to be a Washington football team fan. I mean, you have a lot of good things going for you.
Yeah, I mean, they just need the quarterback, right? Which we'll see. What happens there. Speaking of Washington football team, you had the comeback player of the year, which this wasn't even a discussion.
No.
Alex Smith. It was great to see him, win that.
There were morons talking about Ben Roethlisberger as the defensive comeback player of the year, and I was like, "How? Right? What is wrong with you?" Yes, no, but there were a lot of people on Twitter saying that because he hurt himself the year before, and then he comes back, and was it kind of in the MVP race for a little bit? No, Alex Smith from just being a human being and not being able to, he wasn't supposed to play. Maybe lose his leg. Like that's much bigger than Ben's dumb throwing arm. So
I mean, if anybody hasn't seen, that documentary about his whole kind of
E360,
journey.
I think it was.
Yeah, it was whatever his number is, Project 11 or something like that. I mean, crazy documentary. Just seeing all that stuff and very much well deserved. One thing, just kind of jumping off of that, going to the coach of the year. It was Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns, well deserving. But I do think Ron Rivera also kind of deserved that award.
Yeah,
not
I agree.
Only from Stefanski. I mean, obviously turned the Browns, kind of from where they were last year, to, a playoff team, first playoff game in how many years? Obviously well deserving, but I do think Ron Rivera, deserves a lot of credit for what he did.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of jumping around here. Some sportsmanship award, the Rooney Sportsmanship Award to Teddy Bridgewater.
Yep.
I mean, you always hear just nothing but class act about him. Assistant Coach of the Year, which I didn't know they actually had a award for this one. But Brian Dable, well deserving, obviously, with the Buffalo Bills and what he's done with Josh Allen, that offense. It's been incredible this year. What else we got? I like this one, the clutch performance play of the year.
Yeah.
The Hail Murray touchdown.
And you forget about that too, that happened this year. That was crazy.
Yeah, it was a great play.
Yep. And then Deacon Jones Award, obviously leader in sacks, goes to TJ Watt. Like you said, he won all stats for defensive lineman. The Selly of the year, didn't know that was a thing, was Chase Claypool's touchdown. I'm going to have to go back and watch that. I don't remember what he did.
I know, right? That's what I did too.
The breakout player of the year was Josh Allen. There was a fan of the year. I don't really care about that guy. Most valuable player delivered by Pizza Hut was Aaron Rodgers. So he won an award. So there you go. But yeah, AP MVP, Aaron Rodgers. Hi, Abby. But yeah, definitely something very funny. That is the Pizza Hut. But yeah, he had an all-time season. Aaron Rodgers, hands down, deserved that. He would have been maybe the guy that I would have said, could have been offensive player of the year as the only other player. But he obviously would have much rathered had the Super Bowl trophy, but MVP will have to help. And then Walter Payton, Man of the Year. We saw Calais Campbell handed over this year to Russell Wilson. Obviously, Russ is a fantastic guy. He really does a lot of great things in the NFL and outside of the NFL. I don't like his fashion choices so well, but yeah, it's funny.
He looked miserable too there at the Super Bowl.
He did. Well, he did not want to be there.
I feel like I'd be miserable too, sitting next to Goodell the whole game and stuff like that. True. But yeah, obviously he would rather be playing that game than anything. But well deserving to everybody. Especially obviously Rodgers and to Russell Wilson for everything he does. The biggest one on the list, I think, is the most deserving of everything is obviously Alex Smith. I can't, I know all of us can't speak more highly about what he did to come back, but a lot of great awards, coming out, for those players, and I'm excited. I'm sad that we're not gonna have football for a few months now. Yeah,
no, it's definitely gonna suck, but it'll come back and it'll be better than ever. Hopefully with fans. We'll definitely enjoy, football next year when it's hopefully within a better atmosphere. But a couple other things, just touching base, right? Some stuff I saw before that, Tom Brady's going to have actually minor knee surgery, so he should be back before camp starts. The Raiders plan to cut Tyrell Williams, so obviously the new year is starting up soon. That includes, getting rid of players and some minor transactions. The Jags, Urban Meyer defended hiring Chris Doyle, that the guy from Iowa State that was the director of scouting and conditioning, that was accused of racist remarks, belittling and bullying players. So he had to go out and defend it. So I know Jaguars, faithful aren't really happy about maybe that decision, as well as their coach being that adamant of having him around. A lot of good stuff. There's rumors about OBJ going to Tampa. What's going to happen with Alex Smith. And this is all stuff in the offseason that we'll get to. I'm sure, Sam, we can talk about it, but, we'll probably do a show every other week, kind of because it's offseason. It's a little bit going to be dead. What do teams need? Packers with cornerbacks and Jets with the quarterback, as corner and then quarterbacks. What's going to happen with the Bills, and they're a little cash strapped in free agency. There's some fun stuff to go around. A couple other things we wanted to talk about last week that we didn't get to. Some clinicians tasked with evaluating the eligibility of former NFL players for compensation from the league's landmark 2013 concussion settlement worry that the testing process and protocols discriminates against black players, which was an ABC News investigation published Wednesday. The New York Times reported in August that two former black players, defensive end Kevin Henry and running back Najee Davenport from the Packers, have filed a lawsuit against the NFL accusing the league of explicitly and deliberately discriminating against black players, filing dementia-related claims. So The
Yeah,
NFL,
it's not a
this better be wrong because that's a real big black eye. And,
Yep.
There were talking about COVID and how they did against it, but you have, concussions that are still a major factor in the game and in players' health long term. And if you are, how do you, I can't, how do you fathom saying that, the white guy gets $10 and the black guy that got concussion gets $5? What are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. I mean, they all should get the exact same amount,
Yeah.
regardless of
Yeah,
race,
color. Who cares?
creed,
I don't get
color,
it's your brain.
whatever. Who cares?
But
Yeah, I mean,
it's just amazing. Like, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's amazing that the NFL not think that a player would talk to another guy, be like, "Hey, I got my concussion check. $10,000. I was pretty happy about it." And the guy looks at him like, I got $2,000. Like, you didn't think that was going to happen? Dummies in the NFL office and like all the people that are giving out the money. It's just another thing. The NFL just big black eye.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, in other kind of sour news too, obviously the Washington football team and the whole cheerleading scandal that happened, where they were, videos of them being without their consent and their swimsuit calendar photo shoots in 2008 and 2010. Apparently, they were told, the producers of the video were told to make it for, Dan Schneider. Obviously, there's that whole thing with him and kind of the culture, for the Washington football team and everything like that, which is terrible to hear. So glad to see that they were compensated. Obviously, you don't know how much. Hopefully it was a lot because of everything that has happened with them. It's wrong, and I hope there's other things that can be done. Criminal charges, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, to me, obviously, reaching agreement is just it shows that you knew what you were, was happening, and you knew what was doing. And Dan Schneider should be blackballed from the league. Just him and the vice president and Larry and Michael, they should just be not allowed to come back anymore.
And then obviously the NFL continues to investigate, Washington's culture, following obviously the sexual harassment, and things like that. So apparently it's coming to a close from Goodell. He said that the investigation headed by Beth Wilkinson is nearing kind of completion. So
I hope they drop a hammer on him.
Yeah, I mean, I too. I think all of us kind of agree that Dan Schneider isn't
gotta go
the greatest of people and owners and everything like that. So the NFL needs to get it right. Do what they did with some of those other kind of GMs or not GMs. There's other owners in other sports that have kind of been stripped of their teams and things like that. I definitely think it needs to happen.
Gotcha. So basically we're polishing it up, Sam, right? I could probably do it every other week kind of thing just for the fans that are listening. We are, appreciate the support through the season. Obviously, it's been fun. And we'll do draft stuff and we'll keep up with it and have some fun with all this stuff. But good season. I'd love the 55 season, and we'll hope for 56 is even better.
Let's hope that we're back to tailgating.
Yes.
And all that kind of good stuff because football primetime will be traveling on the road possibly at a bar near you.
Hopefully.
Streakers and everything.
Real quick, I got a trivia question before we officially sign out. So Brady and Rob Gronkowski connected for their 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, combining for 14 total touchdown passes through their careers. That's the most by a QB and receiver. Who did they pass? Which duo?
Jerry Rice, Montana?
Yep, that was an easy one. So, they had 12 touchdowns together. And then history also continued as Gronkowski had 5, Rice with 8. So he's the only other player with at least 5 touchdowns, in a Super Bowl, which is pretty crazy. Pretty cool.
It's crazy. So. Wow.
Yep.
Well, take it home, Sam.
This is Football Primetime. Signing off. There is no off season. We'll see you sometime soon. Billy Dean.
Get some
Good
sleep.
night. Yep.
Good night, baby Sarah.